Sara Button. Give it up!
Whatever you feel. Okay, so I love Halloween and the context for this. So I wrote this story. It is a true story. And it is part of the family legend that exists in the Button family, mostly because my uncle, whose name is John, who is in the story, is one of the best storytellers probably I will ever know in my life. I love him very much, and I grew up always asking him to tell me the ghost stories that he had very truly experienced. And so this is one of those stories that is true, that he experienced. Really. In May of 1870, 7 Catholic Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet arrived in Tucson, Arizona. They wanted to give rest to the weary and help to the fallen and preach the good word of their Lord. Soon after their arrival to the desert, they established a nursing program, convent, and hospital, becoming integral in Arizona's growing economy and community. Their success continued with parochial schools and an orphanage, and in 1961, on Tucson's east side, they opened St. Joseph's Hospital to accommodate the city's expanding population. It is 1981. Lennon has been dead less than a year, and Rick Springfield is singing about Jesse's girl, and it is summertime in Tucson. It is dry and hot, even at night, and sometimes the best remedy is a nice cold beer. So that's what John and Tim and Kim are drinking. But they're only 17, so they've gone to one of the few places in the city where they can drink without concern of harassment from the cops or groundings from parents, next to the abandoned building behind St. Joseph's Hospital. Yes! Can we time that for like a later one? Once, the building belonged to the Sisters of St. Joseph. Perhaps it still does. They're not sure. They suspect the nuns lived there once, that it was maybe turned into a Catholic school. Maybe it was for girls. In either case, nobody takes care of it now. Boards cover the doors and windows, and desert shrubs have begun to encroach past the point of landscaping to reclaim the structure. It's the perfect place to party. Tim and Kim sit on the steps leading up to the entrance. John leans back against a car that has been left to rust and takes a swig of beer. At first, he doesn't notice the quiet. Silence isn't unusual anyway. From where they are, it's impossible to hear the traffic on Wilmot Boulevard. Sometimes the final bleats of ambulance sirens pulling up to St. Joe's punctuate their conversation, but a lull isn't strange. Nor does John notice a charge of electricity in the air or feel his hair rise on the back of his neck. But Tim does. "John, what's behind me?" His voice is slow and dragging, but it's not from the beer. John turns around to face them. Behind Tim is a nun. The black of her robe is barely visible, but her habit looks to be glowing. Her skin is gray, deep wrinkles wisen her face, and her eyes are so sunken in the sockets, John can't even see them. She's floating. "You don't want to know," John replies, dropping his Budweiser. As if these words have released them from otherworldly shackles, Tim and Kim both stand and bolt. John is staring so intently at this thing that he doesn't even realize they've gone until they buzz by him. He sees them only in his peripheral vision as ghosts themselves, and then realizes he needs to run, too. They reach the hospital parking lot and stop. "It didn't follow us," John says, panting. Tim blanches. "Did you feel that? I felt like I was a magnet stuck to a refrigerator back there. I could barely move." "Let's go back," Kim says. "Maybe whatever it is will still be there." But all they find next to the abandoned building is the rusted car and the half-full beer cans. The one John had dropped in his escape has spilled on its side, darkening the desert sand. Like blood. The next night, John and Kim return. Tim refuses to come back. Karen, Kim's sister, joins them instead. This time they bring a crowbar and some candles so they can break into the abandoned building and conduct a seance. Wild hypotheses flit through their imaginations as to who the nun was and what she wanted. They hope to summon her again to ask. The scene looks the same as it had only 24 hours earlier, as it always does. Deserted, quiet, dark. John starts prying wooden boards from the door when they hear the pump of a shotgun, a dog's growl, and 3 words they never expected to hear. "You're under arrest." John and the girls turn. A security guard stands there, dog leashed at his side. This is the first time they've ever seen anyone else there. Too bewildered to respond politely, John says, "Where did you come from?" "What are you talking about? I'm here every night." John and Kim glance at each other, knowing this guy must be asleep in his truck on the regular. They have been there drunk and loud countless times without seeing anyone patrolling. In an attempt to appeal to his mercy, they begin to tell him what they were doing there, why they even wanted to break into a busted up old building. He interrupts their overlapping voices and says, "Let me guess. You guys saw the ghost of a nun and she was all old and ugly and wrinkly and floating towards you." Kim and John are shocked. "Yeah, that's exactly what we saw. How did you?" He scoffs. "You're still under arrest for trespassing." Do you kids know how many times I've heard that stupid story? Boom! Oh, no, it didn't work. The end, true story, that's all.